She married a billionaire who refused to touch her for 5 years. Not a hug, not a kiss, nothing. Their wedding vows? A cold business contract to save her dying mother. But when he discovers her heartbreaking secret letter, everything shatters. His cruel mother will stop at nothing to tear them apart, and a shocking pregnancy bombshell threatens to destroy their chance at love. Will she walk away on their anniversary, or give this broken man one last chance? You won't believe the explosive truth that's been hidden for 5 years. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The morning sun streamed through the tall windows of the Vale mansion, casting long shadows across the marble floors. Amara Ellison sat alone at the massive dining table, sipping her tea in silence. At 28, she was striking, her dark skin glowing against the crisp white blouse she wore, her natural hair styled in neat twists. But her brown eyes, though beautiful, carried a sadness that never seemed to fade. 5 years. It had been 5 years since she'd walked into this cold, beautiful prison and signed her life away. The sound of footsteps made her straighten her posture. Christopher Vale entered the dining room, his tall frame impeccably dressed in a tailored suit. At 30, he was handsome in that classic, privileged way. Strong jaw, perfect haircut, eyes the color of a winter sky. He nodded at her, the same acknowledgement he gave her every morning. Not a smile, not a good morning, just a nod. "Your coffee, Mr. Vale," said Martha, the housekeeper, placing the steaming cup in front of him. "Thank you," he replied, his voice deep but emotionless. Amara watched him from behind her teacup. Her husband, a man who had never touched her, never held her hand, never kissed her, a man who shared his last name with her but nothing else. "The Thompson meeting is at 10, she said, breaking the silence. As his wife, even if in name only, she kept track of his schedule. It was part of their arrangement. Christopher glanced at her, then back at his newspaper. "I know," 2 words. That was often all she got from him. "I'll be visiting my mother at the hospital today," Amara continued. "Dr. Patterson says the new treatment is showing promise." This time Christopher looked at her a moment longer. "Good," he said, before returning to his paper. Amara finished her tea, placed the cup down with a soft clink, and stood. No goodbye was necessary. They had perfected this dance of polite distance years ago. The hospital was bright and sterile, but to Amara, it was a second home. She walked confidently through the corridors, nodding at nurses who knew her by name after 5 years of regular visits. Her mother's room was at the end of the hall. Josephine Ellison had once been a vibrant, strong woman, a community organizer who fought for better schools and housing in their neighborhood. Now multiple sclerosis had confined her to a bed, stealing her mobility bit by bit. But it hadn't taken her spirit. "There's my beautiful girl," Josephine said as Amara entered the room, her voice warm despite her weakened body. Amara's face transformed. Here she smiled. Here she was loved. She bent down and kissed her mother's forehead. "How are you feeling today, Mom?" "Oh, you know me." Too stubborn to let this disease win, Josephine reached for her daughter's hand. "How are things at home? How's Christopher?" Amara's smile dimmed just slightly. "The same. He's busy with work." Josephine squeezed her hand. "That boy needs to learn there's more to life than those computers and deals." "It's okay, Mom. We have an understanding." Amara busied herself with arranging the fresh flowers she'd brought. "Besides, the important thing is, you're getting the best care. And Marcus just started his 2nd year of medical school, and Zoe is doing great in college. That's what matters." Josephine studied her daughter's face. "Your happiness matters too, baby." Tamara turned away, blinking back sudden tears. "I am happy. I have you, I have my siblings, that's enough." But they both knew it wasn't true. Christopher Vale sat in his corner office 40 floors above the city. Vale Technologies was his kingdom, an empire of innovation he'd built from the foundation his father left him. On the walls hung awards and magazine covers featuring his serious face. "Tech's most eligible bachelor," one headline read, completely ignoring the wedding ring on his finger. Not that it was a real marriage anyway. A knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. His assistant, James, entered with a stack of reports. "The quarterly numbers, sir." "And Mrs. Vale called. She said she'll be home late from the hospital." Christopher nodded, taking the reports. Mrs. Vale, Amara, the woman who lived like a ghost in his house. "Also, your mother called. Again. She's quite insistent about dinner next week." Christopher's jaw tightened. Eleanor Vale was the last person he wanted to see. "Tell her I'm busy." "I've told her that the last 3 times, sir. She says it's important. Family business." "Family." Christopher almost laughed. What did his mother know about family? She'd abandoned him and his father when he was just 10, running off with some European businessman. She only reappeared when his father died, and Christopher inherited everything. Fine. Schedule it. But at a restaurant, not at the house. Not where Amara might have to endure her. James nodded and left. Christopher turned to the window, looking out at the city below. Sometimes he wondered what his life would have been like if Gerald Ellison hadn't pushed him out of the way of that speeding car 15 years ago. If the man hadn't died saving him, leaving behind a wife and 3 children who would struggle without him. Children like Amara, who'd been just 13 then, a bright-eyed girl at her father's funeral, holding her younger siblings' hands, trying to be strong. He owed her. That's what he told himself every time he saw the sadness in her eyes. This arrangement was the least he could do for Gerald Ellison's daughter. Amara arrived home late, just as the sun was setting. The Vale mansion was lit up like a showpiece, which it essentially was. Christopher often hosted business associates, and the house needed to project success and stability, just like their marriage. She entered quietly, hanging her coat in the massive foyer. "Mrs. Vale," called Martha, appearing from the kitchen. "Mr. Vale asked me to tell you he had to attend a last-minute dinner meeting. He won't be home until late." "Thank you, Martha." Amara tried not to show her relief. Another evening alone was just fine with her. "I think I'll have dinner in my room tonight. I'll bring it up in a bit." "Oh, and this came for you today." Martha handed her an envelope. Amara recognized her sister Zoe's handwriting immediately. She took the stairs to her bedroom, her separate bedroom, of course, and sat on the edge of her bed to read the letter. "Dear Amara, college is amazing. I'm loving my psychology classes, and I've made so many friends. Thank you for the extra money you sent. I was able to buy all my textbooks and still have enough left over for a decent winter coat. How are you? Really, you always say you're fine in our calls, but I know you, sis. Are you still living like 2 strangers in that big house? You deserve so much more than this deal Dad made. I know you think you're honoring his memory, but he wouldn't want you to be unhappy. Please think about what you want for once. Love you always." Zoe Amara folded the letter, her throat tight. What did she want? She'd stopped asking herself that question years ago. She went to her desk and pulled out a notepad. She often wrote letters she never sent. It was her way of releasing the feelings she kept bottled up inside. "Dear Christopher, today marks 5 years since I walked down that aisle toward you. 5 years of silence. 5 years of loneliness. Sometimes I wonder if you even see me as a person, or just as an obligation, the daughter of the man who saved your life. I know our marriage was never meant to be real. I know you're still haunted by what Lisa did to you, how she betrayed you for your money. I know you've closed yourself off because you think it's safer that way. But I'm not Lisa. I never wanted your money. I just wanted my family to be okay. And now they are, thanks to you. My mother gets the best treatments. My brother is going to be a doctor. My sister is thriving in college. But I'm dying inside these walls. 5 years of living with a man who can't even look me in the eye. 5 years of pretending to the world that we're a normal couple. I don't regret our deal, but I regret that we couldn't find even a small measure of friendship in it. That would have made the loneliness bearable." Amara stared at the letter, then carefully folded it and tucked it into her desk drawer with all the others she'd written over the years. Confessions to a man who would never read them. Late that night, Christopher returned home. The house was quiet, the staff gone for the evening. He loosened his tie as he climbed the stairs, exhausted from a dinner with investors who asked too many personal questions. "Is it true you and your wife sleep in separate bedrooms? When are you planning to have children? I've never seen Mrs. Vale at company events. Is everything okay?" He stopped outside Amara's door. A sliver of light showed underneath. She was still awake. For a moment he considered knocking just to check on her, to ask about her mother, to have a real conversation. His hand rose, hovering near the wood. Then he dropped it and continued to his own room. Weeks passed in the same careful routine. Amara and Christopher circled each other like cautious planets, never colliding, never connecting. She managed the household and kept up appearances when necessary. He worked endless hours and provided for her family. It was exactly what they had agreed to 5 years ago, until Eleanor Vale decided to disrupt their delicate balance. The dinner with his mother had been tense, as Christopher expected. Eleanor, at 60, was still striking. Blonde hair expertly colored, face subtly lifted, designer clothes highlighting her thin frame. She'd remarried twice since leaving Christopher's father, though she was currently between husbands. "Darling, it's been too long," she said. air kissing his cheeks at the upscale restaurant. "What do you want, Mother?" Christopher didn't bother with pleasantries. They weren't that kind of family. Eleanor sipped her martini. "So direct. Just like your father." She set down her glass. "I want to discuss this charade you call a marriage." Christopher's face hardened. "My marriage is none of your business." "Please," Eleanor scoffed. "Everyone knows it's a sham. You never appear together. She's not involved in any company functions, and let's be honest, she's not exactly from our circle, is she?" "Careful," Christopher warned, his voice low. "I'm just saying what everyone thinks. You married the girl out of some misplaced guilt over her father. It was noble in a misguided way, but it's been 5 years. Surely your debt is paid." She leaned forward. "I've had the family lawyers draw up annulment papers. You can set her up with a nice settlement. She'll be fine." Christopher stared at his mother, something cold and angry building in his chest. "You abandoned me when I was 10 years old. You have no right to come back now and dictate my life." "I'm thinking of the company, Christopher. The Vale name. We have a certain position to maintain. We're done here." Christopher threw his napkin on the table and stood. Eleanor called after him. "She'll never belong in our world. You know that as well as I do." He walked out without looking back. Amara knew something was wrong the moment Christopher came home that night. His face was tight, his movements stiff as he poured himself a whiskey in the living room. She should have gone upstairs, left him alone with his mood. That was their unspoken rule. Instead, she found herself asking, "Bad day?" Christopher looked up, almost surprised to see her there. For a second, his guard dropped, and she saw something raw in his eyes. "My mother," he said simply, downing his drink. "Ah." Amara knew all about Eleanor Vale. The woman had made it clear from the beginning that she thought Amara was beneath them. What did she want? Christopher poured another drink. "To interfere. It's what she does best." Amara hesitated, then sat on the couch across from him. This was the longest conversation they'd had in months. "She never approved of me. She doesn't approve of anything I do." He looked at her, really looked at her, for what felt like the first time in years. "I'm sorry she's difficult." Amara felt a strange flutter in her chest, an apology, a real acknowledgement. "It's okay," she said softly. "I'm used to it." Something flickered in Christopher's eyes, regret perhaps, but then it was gone, and the wall was back. "I should get some sleep. Early meeting tomorrow." And just like that, the moment was over. Amara watched him leave, wondering if she'd imagined the brief connection between them. 3 days later, Amara was organizing papers in the Home Office when she came across an envelope from Vale Family Legal Services. It had been opened, its contents partially visible. She shouldn't look. It was Christopher's business. But something made her pull out the document inside, and when she read the title, "Petition for Annulment," her heart seemed to stop. He was ending their marriage. After 5 years, he was finally cutting her loose. Her hands shook as she scanned the legal language. There was a settlement offer, generous enough to keep her mother in treatment and her siblings in school. Everything she'd married him for would still be taken care of. So why did it feel like her world was collapsing? She carefully returned the papers to the envelope, placed it exactly where she'd found it, and walked out of the office on unsteady legs. That night, she couldn't sleep. She paced her room, trying to understand her own reaction. Wasn't this what she should want? Freedom from this cold, empty marriage? The chance to find real love someday? But where would she go? What would she do? For 5 years, she'd been Mrs. Vale, a role, a position, a job. Who was Amara Ellison without that? At 2 a.m. she gave up on sleep and went downstairs for tea. The house was dark and silent as she made her way to the kitchen, but as she passed the living room, she noticed a light. Christopher sat on the couch, still in his work clothes, staring at nothing, a glass of whiskey in his hand. Amara paused in the doorway. "Can't sleep either?" He looked up, and she was struck by how tired he seemed, not just physically, but soul deep, exhausted. "No," he admitted. She should walk away. Instead, she entered the room and sat opposite him. "I found the annulment papers today." His eyes widened slightly. "Amara, it's okay," she said quickly. "Our arrangement was never meant to be permanent. 5 years it's a long time to pretend." Christopher set down his glass. "My mother brought those papers. I didn't ask for them." "Oh." Amara wasn't sure what to do with that information. "But you're considering it." He ran a hand through his hair, messing up the perfect style. "I don't know." Silence stretched between them, filled with 5 years of unspoken words. "Would you want that?" he finally asked. "An annulment?" The question caught her off guard. In 5 years, he'd never asked what she wanted. She hesitated. "I don't know either." Christopher looked at her, really looked at her, and Amara felt exposed, as if he could suddenly see all the loneliness she'd been hiding. "I should let you get your tea," he said, standing abruptly. But instead of leaving, he walked to the desk in the corner and opened a drawer. "I need to give you something." He returned with a key. "My father left a safety deposit box. When he died, I found a letter saying I should only open it with Gerald Ellison's daughter. With you." Amara stared at the key. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" "At first I was angry. I didn't want to know what secret my father and yours shared. Then it just never seemed like the right time. And now it is, because your mother wants our marriage annulled." Christopher's jaw tightened. "Tomorrow. We'll go tomorrow and open it together. Maybe then we'll both have answers." He left the room, leaving Amara with a key and more questions than she'd had in 5 years of marriage. The bank was downtown, an old stone building with brass fixtures and hushed voices. Christopher and Amara sat side by side in a private room, the long metal box between them. "Would you like me to leave you alone?" asked the bank manager. "No need," said Christopher. "This won't take long." When the manager left, Christopher turned to Amara. "You should open it." Her hands trembled slightly as she inserted the key and lifted the lid. Inside was a single envelope and a small velvet box. The envelope had both their names written on it in faded ink. Amara carefully opened it and pulled out a letter. "Christopher and Amara, if you're reading this, then Christopher has honored the arrangement made between myself and Gerald Ellison, an arrangement born not just of obligation, but of hope. Gerald saved more than Christopher's life that day. He saved the future of a boy who had known too little love and too much expectation. In our many conversations after, as I helped support his family, Gerald and I often spoke of our children. We saw in you two something special, complementary strengths, Amara's warmth and compassion, Christopher's determination and brilliance. Gerald joked that you would make a perfect match someday. What began as a joke became a hope and then a plan. Not to force you together, but to give you the opportunity to find in each other what we believed was possible. The contract marriage was a means to fulfill my debt to Gerald and secure Amara's family's future. But our true hope was that living together, you might discover what we saw all those years ago. In the velvet box is my mother's ring, a Vale family heirloom. It belongs to you both, to use if and when your arrangement becomes something more. No pressure, no obligation. Just hope for two people we love deeply." Richard Vale Amara finished reading, her vision blurred with tears. Next to her, Christopher sat perfectly still, his face unreadable. Slowly he reached for the velvet box and opened it. Inside was a stunning emerald ring surrounded by diamonds. "They planned this," he said, his voice rough, "all of it." "Not exactly," Amara replied. "They hoped. There's a difference." Their eyes met, and for the first time in 5 years, Amara felt Christopher truly seeing her, not as an obligation, not as part of a deal, but as a woman. "5 years," he said softly. "5 years. And I never even tried to know you." Before she could respond, Christopher's phone rang. He checked it, his expression changing. "It's the hospital. Your mother's doctor." Amara's heart dropped as she took the phone. "Ms. Ellison, there's been a complication with your mother. You should come right away." The world seemed to tilt. She handed the phone back to Christopher, already standing. "I need to go. My mom—" "I'll drive you," he said immediately, closing the safety deposit box. "Come on." For the first time since their wedding day, Christopher took her hand, and Amara, too worried to question it, held on tight. The hospital corridor seemed endless as Amara rushed forward, Christopher right behind her. For once his usual composure was gone. His tie loosened, his expression concerned as he kept pace with her. "Room 312, the nurse at the desk directed them. "Dr. Patterson is waiting for you." Amara's heart pounded in her chest. She'd been in this hospital hundreds of times over the past 5 years, but never with this sense of dread. Dr. Patterson stood outside her mother's room, his face grave. "Ms. Ellison, thank you for coming quickly." "What happened?" Amara asked, her voice shaking. "Your mother had a seizure. We've stabilized her, but her condition has deteriorated significantly. The MS is progressing faster than we anticipated." Amara felt her knees weaken. "Is she—" "She's conscious now, but very weak. You should see her." Christopher, who had been standing silently behind her, suddenly spoke. "What treatment options do we have, Doctor?" Dr. Patterson glanced between them. "There's an experimental treatment at Mayo Clinic. It's shown promising results in cases like Mrs. Ellison's, but cost isn't an issue," Christopher interrupted. "If it can help, make the arrangements." The doctor nodded. I'll start the paperwork. But you should know, the treatment is intensive. Mrs. Ellison will need full-time care afterward. She can come to the house, Christopher said, surprising Amara. We have plenty of space and we can hire nurses. Amara stared at him, speechless. In 5 years he'd never once suggested her mother come to their home. I'll let you visit with her now, Dr. Patterson said, stepping aside. Amara moved toward the door, then paused and looked back at Christopher. Thank you, she whispered. He nodded, his blue eyes intense. Go be with your mother. I'll handle everything else. Josephine Ellison looked small and fragile in the hospital bed, her once vibrant face now drawn with pain, but her eyes lit up when Amara entered. Baby girl, she said weakly. They called you? I told them not to worry you. Amara rushed to her side, taking her hand. Of course they called me. How are you feeling? Like I've been hit by a truck. Josephine tried to smile. But I'm still here. Tears filled Amara's eyes. You scared me. It takes more than this disease to keep me down. Josephine squeezed her daughter's hand. Was that Christopher I saw in the hall? Amara nodded. He drove me here. He's arranging for you to get treatment at Mayo Clinic. Josephine raised an eyebrow. Is he now? That's new. He also said you could come stay with us afterward at the house. Well, Josephine said, studying her daughter's face. Maybe that husband of yours is finally waking up. Christopher paced the hospital corridor, making calls. He'd already contacted his assistant to research the Mayo Clinic treatment, called the house staff to prepare a suite for Josephine, and reached out to a nursing agency about in-home care. Money is no object, he told them. I want the best care available. As he ended the last call, he noticed a young man hurrying down the hall, tall, with the same warm brown skin and determined expression as Amara. Marcus, Christopher called out, recognizing Amara's younger brother from the few family photos Amara kept in her room. The young man stopped, surprised. Mr. Vale, I didn't expect to see you here. Christopher extended his hand. Christopher, please. Your sister is with your mother now. Marcus shook his hand, his eyes wary. In the 5 years of Christopher and Amara's marriage, they'd only met a handful of times at formal occasions. How bad is it? The doctors say she's stable, but the MS is progressing. I'm arranging for her to receive treatment at Mayo Clinic, and then she'll come stay at our house. Marcus's eyebrows shot up. Your house? Since when do you... He stopped himself. I'm sorry. That was rude. No, Christopher said, surprising himself with his honesty. It's a fair question. Things between Amara and me have been complicated. Complicated, Marcus repeated, a slight edge to his voice. That's one way to put it. Christopher felt a flicker of shame. This young man clearly knew how lonely his sister had been in their so-called marriage. I know I haven't been... Christopher struggled for words. I haven't been what Amara deserves. Marcus studied him for a long moment. No, you haven't. But you're here now. That's something. Before Christopher could respond, Amara emerged from the room. Marcus, she cried, rushing to hug her brother. When did you get here? Just now. I caught the first flight from Chicago when they called. Marcus hugged her tightly. How is she? Tired, but still fighting. She wants to see you. As Marcus went into the room, Amara turned to Christopher. You didn't have to stay. Yes, I did, he said simply. Their eyes met, and something shifted between them, a crack in the wall that had separated them for 5 years. The arrangements are made, Christopher continued. Mayo Clinic has agreed to take your mother next week. Their success rate with this treatment is encouraging. Amara's eyes filled with tears. I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me. This is what... He hesitated. This is what family does. Family. It was the first time he'd ever referred to them that way. Over the next week, Christopher surprised Amara with his involvement in Josephine's care. He visited the hospital daily, often bringing specialists he'd consulted. He personally oversaw the renovations to a suite of rooms in their home, making sure everything was wheelchair accessible. Amara watched him with growing confusion. This was not the distant man she'd lived with for 5 years. This was someone new, or perhaps someone who had been buried beneath layers of pain and isolation. One evening, as they were leaving the hospital together, Christopher asked, Have you had dinner? Amara blinked, caught off guard. No, not yet. Would you like to get something? There's a good Italian place nearby. Her heart fluttered strangely. Are you asking me to dinner? A ghost of a smile touched his lips. I believe I am. The restaurant was small and cozy, with checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. Not the upscale establishments Christopher usually frequented for business meetings, but charming in its simplicity. They sat across from each other, an awkward silence between them as they studied their menus. "I don't think we've ever done this," Amara finally said. "Done what?" "Had dinner, just the two of us, by choice." Christopher set down his menu. "No, we haven't. That's my fault." Amara didn't know how to respond. In 5 years, he'd never acknowledged any fault in their arrangement. "Why now?" she asked. "What changed?" Christopher was quiet for a moment. "The letter," he finally said, "from my father and yours. It made me realize how much I've wasted these 5 years. Our fathers had an unusual idea of matchmaking," Amara said with a small smile. "They saw something we didn't, or at least something I refused to see." Christopher's blue eyes met hers. "You're an extraordinary woman, Amara. You've handled this situation with grace and dignity, even when I gave you nothing in return." Amara's breath caught in her throat. "I did what I had to do, for my family, and I used that as an excuse to keep my distance, to pretend this was just a business arrangement." He ran a hand through his hair, a rare gesture of vulnerability. "The truth is, I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Of letting anyone close again. After Lisa," he trailed off. Amara knew about Lisa, Christopher's college girlfriend who had betrayed him, selling stories about him to the tabloids and trying to blackmail his family. It had happened years before they met, but the wounds clearly ran deep. "Not everyone will hurt you, Christopher. I know that. Logically, I know that." He reached across the table, his fingers stopping just short of hers. "But logic and emotion don't always align." The waiter arrived with their food, breaking the moment. They ate in silence for a while, but it was a different kind of silence than what usually stretched between them, thoughtful rather than empty. "Tell me about your day," Christopher said suddenly. "Your real day, not just the schedule." Amara looked at him in surprise. "Why?" "Because I want to know. Because we've been married for 5 years, and I don't know what makes you smile, or what worries you, or what you dream about." Her heart beat faster. I visited Mom this morning. Then I had lunch with my friend Tanya. We went to college together. She just got engaged, so she wanted to show me her ring." Amara paused, realizing how mundane this all sounded. "It's not very exciting. It's your life," Christopher said simply. "That makes it important." Amara felt something warm unfurl in her chest. Hope, perhaps. Dangerous, fragile hope. The day Josephine was scheduled to move into their home, Amara woke early, anxious about the transition. To her surprise, Christopher was already up, checking last-minute details with the staff. "The nurses will arrive at noon," he told her over breakfast. "The physical therapist will come 3 times a week, and I've had an intercom system installed, so your mother can reach you from anywhere in the house." Amara stared at him, a lump forming in her throat. "You've thought of everything." "I want her to be comfortable here. I want you both to feel at home." Home. The word hung between them. This mansion had never felt like home to Amara, just a beautiful, cold place where she happened to live. "Christopher," she began hesitantly, "I need to understand what's happening. Between us, these past 2 weeks, you've been different." He set down his coffee cup. "I told you. The letter—" "It's more than that," she interrupted. "A letter doesn't change someone overnight." Christopher was quiet for a long moment. "After my mother brought those annulment papers, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what it would mean to end our marriage, to not see you every day." His voice grew softer, and I realized the thought bothered me. "A lot." Amara's heart skipped a beat. "Because of obligation?" "No," he met her eyes. "Because somewhere along the way, without even realizing it, I started to care about you." Before Amara could respond, Martha appeared in the doorway. "Excuse me, Mr. Vale. There's a young woman here to see Mrs. Vale. She says she's her sister." Amara stood quickly. "Zoe? She's supposed to be at college." A moment later, Zoe Ellison burst into the dining room, a whirlwind of energy at 21. She was a younger version of Amara, same warm brown skin and expressive eyes, but with long braids and a more impulsive nature. "Surprise!" she exclaimed, rushing to hug her sister. "I couldn't let Mom move in without being here." "You should have told me you were coming," Amara said, hugging her back. "And miss seeing your shocked face." "Never." Zoe turned to Christopher, her expression cooling slightly. "Mr. Vale." Christopher stood, extending his hand. "Zoe, it's good to see you again. Please, call me Christopher." Zoe shook his hand with obvious reluctance. Like Marcus, she had witnessed her sister's loneliness these past 5 years. "I hear you're bringing Mom here," she said, her tone making it clear she found this suspicious. Yes, Christopher replied. We've prepared rooms for her on the ground floor. You're welcome to stay as long as you like too. Zoe raised an eyebrow at Amara, as if to say, what's going on with him? Amara gave a small shrug. She didn't have an answer herself. By evening, Josephine was settled in her new suite. Surrounded by familiar possessions Christopher had arranged to have brought from her apartment, Zoe stayed by her side, catching her up on college life, while Amara handled the nursing staff. Christopher had disappeared into his home office hours ago, giving the family space. But as Amara passed by on her way to check on dinner, she heard his raised voice. I don't care what you think, Mother. My decision is final. Amara slowed her steps, not wanting to eavesdrop but concerned by his tone. It's my house and my marriage, Christopher continued. You lost any right to an opinion when you walked out on Dad and me. There was a pause and then, no, I will not reconsider the annulment. In fact, destroy the papers. I don't want to hear about it again. Amara's heart pounded in her chest. He was refusing the annulment, the easy escape from their arrangement. She hurried past the door before he could finish his call, her mind racing. What did this mean? Was he really starting to see their marriage as something more than a contract? And if he was, how did she feel about that? Later that night, after Josephine and Zoe had gone to bed, Amara found herself alone in the garden. The night was cool, the sky clear and full of stars. She wrapped her cardigan tighter around her shoulders, trying to sort through her conflicting emotions. Can't sleep. She turned to find Christopher approaching, his suit jacket discarded, his shirt sleeves rolled up. It was the most casual she'd seen him in years. Too much on my mind, she admitted. He stood beside her, both of them gazing up at the stars. Your mother seems to be settling in well. She is. Thank you again for all of this. You don't need to keep thanking me, Amara. They fell silent, but it was a comfortable silence, the first they'd ever shared. I heard you on the phone earlier, Amara finally said. With your mother. Christopher tensed slightly. I see. You told her to destroy the annulment papers. He turned to face her. Yes, I did. Why? In the moonlight, his expression was softer than she'd ever seen it. Because I don't want an annulment. I don't want to end our marriage. Amara's heart raced. Because of the letter. Because our fathers wanted this. No. Christopher took a step closer. Because I want this. Because these past 2 weeks, seeing you with your family, talking with you, having dinner with you, it's shown me what I've been missing, what I've been denying myself out of fear. He reached out, his fingers gently touching her cheek. Amara froze, shocked by the contact. I know I have no right to ask for a second chance, he said softly. I know 5 years is a long time to live as strangers, but I'd like to try, Amara. I'd like to see if what our fathers saw in us is real. Amara struggled to breathe. Part of her wanted to lean into his touch, to believe this change was permanent, but another part, the part that had endured 5 years of loneliness, was afraid to hope. I don't know if I can trust this, she whispered. Trust you, you've been so distant for so long. I know. His hand dropped to his side. I don't expect you to trust me overnight. I just hope you'll give me the chance to earn it. Before she could respond, a voice called from the house. Amara, are you out here? Zoe appeared on the patio, her silhouette framed by the light from inside. Mom's asking for you. I'll be right there, Amara called back. She looked at Christopher once more. I need time to think about this. He nodded. Take all the time you need, I'm not going anywhere. The next morning, Christopher was conspicuously absent from breakfast. Martha informed Amara that he'd left early for an important meeting. He asked me to give you this, the housekeeper said, handing Amara a small envelope. Inside was a note in Christopher's precise handwriting. Amara, I meant what I said last night. I want a real chance with you. Not because of our father's wishes, but because of my own. I'll be home this evening. Perhaps we could have dinner together again. Christopher Amara read the note twice, a smile tugging at her lips despite her reservations. Good news? Zoe asked, sliding into the seat across from her with a knowing grin. Amara quickly tucked the note away. Just Christopher letting me know his schedule. Right, Zoe drawled. That's why you're blushing. I am not blushing. You absolutely are. Zoe leaned forward. So what's going on with you two? And don't say nothing, because something has definitely changed. He actually looks at you now, and speaks in full sentences. Amara sighed. I don't know what's going on, to be honest. Ever since Mom got sick, he's been different, attentive, almost like a real husband. And how do you feel about that? Zoe asked, suddenly serious. Confused, hopeful, terrified. Amara stirred her tea absently. For 5 years, I've tried not to want more from this marriage. I've tried to be content with our arrangement, and now that he's offering more, I don't know if I can trust it. Do you have feelings for him? Zoe pressed. Amara hesitated. I don't know. I've spent so long pushing down any feelings that I'm not sure what's left. Well, figure it out, Zoe said firmly. Because if he's serious about making this marriage real, you need to be sure it's what you want too. Christopher's important meeting turned out to be with Eleanor Vale. She'd demanded to see him after their heated phone conversation, and he'd agreed to meet at her penthouse apartment. You're making a mistake, Eleanor said as soon as he walked in. This girl and her family will drain you dry. Christopher's jaw tightened. That girl is my wife, and her name is Amara. I'd appreciate if you used it. Eleanor waved a dismissive hand. Wife in name only. We both know the truth about your arrangement. The truth is changing, Christopher said evenly. My feelings for Amara are changing. Eleanor's perfectly made-up face showed her shock. Feelings? Don't be ridiculous. This is about guilt, nothing more. You're wrong. Christopher moved to the window, looking out at the city below. For 5 years I've kept her at a distance because I was afraid. Afraid of being hurt again, like with Lisa. Afraid of caring too much and losing everything. As you should be. That family is only interested in your money. Why else would she agree to such an arrangement? Christopher turned, his eyes cold. To save her mother's life, to help her siblings get an education. Not everyone is as selfish as you, Mother. Eleanor flinched as if he'd slapped her. How dare you? I came here today to make something clear, Christopher interrupted. I am not getting an annulment. Amara is my wife, and her family is now my family. If you can't accept that, then our relationship, whatever is left of it, is over. He moved toward the door, but Eleanor's voice stopped him. She'll never fit into our world, Christopher. The board members, the investors, they won't accept her as the real Mrs. Vale. Christopher turned, a cold smile on his face. Then they'll have to find another company to invest in, because I won't choose between Amara and Vale Technologies. You don't mean that, Eleanor gasped. The company is your life. No, Christopher said quietly. That's what I've been telling myself for years. But I'm starting to realize there's more to life than boardrooms and profit margins. He left without another word, feeling lighter than he had in years. When Christopher returned home that evening, he found Amara in the garden again, sitting on a bench with a book in her lap. She looked up as he approached, the setting sun casting a golden glow on her face. You're back, she said, marking her place in the book. I am. He sat beside her, leaving a respectful distance between them. How is your mother today? Good. The new medication seems to be helping with the pain. Amara studied his face. You look different. Do I? Lighter somehow, like you've put down a heavy weight. Christopher smiled. Perhaps I have. He took a deep breath. I saw my mother today. Amara tensed. Oh? I told her our marriage is real, that I won't consider an annulment, that if she can't accept you and your family, then she's no longer welcome in my life. Amara's eyes widened. Christopher, you didn't have to. Yes, I did. He moved closer, cautiously taking her hand. For too long I've let fear dictate my life. Fear of betrayal, fear of loss, fear of feeling too much. It kept me from seeing what was right in front of me. A woman of incredible strength and compassion. Amara looked down at their joined hands. This is happening so fast. 2 weeks ago we barely spoke to each other. I know, and I'll understand if you need time, if you can't trust this change in me yet. His fingers tightened gently around hers. But I'm asking for a chance, Amara. A chance to be the husband you deserve. She looked up, meeting his gaze. And what if it doesn't work? What if we try and find out we're too different, that our fathers were wrong about us? Then at least we'll know we tried. But I don't think they were wrong. His voice softened. The other night you asked me why now. What changed? It wasn't just the letter, or your mother's illness. It was finding this. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Amara recognized it immediately. One of her unsent letters, the one she'd written on their 5th anniversary. You read my letter, she whispered, embarrassment and vulnerability washing over her. I found it when I was clearing space in the office for your mother's medical equipment. It had fallen behind the desk. His eyes were pained. The words you wrote about dying inside these walls, about 5 years of loneliness, they broke something in me, Amara, made me see what I'd done to you. A tear slipped down Amara's cheek. Those were private thoughts. I know, and I'm sorry for reading it, but I'm not sorry it opened my eyes. He reached up, gently wiping away her tear. You wrote that you would have been happy with even a small measure of friendship. I want to offer you so much more than that. Amara's heart pounded in her chest. What exactly are you offering, Christopher? A real marriage, a partnership, a chance for both of us to heal. He hesitated, then said softly, maybe even love someday. Love. The word hung between them, fragile and powerful. Amara stood, needing space to think. I need to check on my mother. Christopher remained seated, respecting her need for distance. Of course. She took a few steps, then turned back. Dinner tonight, 8 o'clock. We can talk more then. A smile spread across his face, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. I'll be there. Amara nodded and walked back to the house, her mind spinning and her heart full of cautious hope. Unknown to both Amara and Christopher, Eleanor Vale had not accepted her son's decision. Back in her penthouse, she made a phone call. It's me, she said, when the person answered. I need your help. It's about my son and his wife. The voice on the other end asked a question. Yes, she's become a problem. Christopher is actually developing feelings for her. Eleanor's voice hardened. I need you to find something, anything we can use against her or her family. Everyone has secrets. She listened for a moment, then smiled coldly. Perfect. And Michael, make it quick. I want this marriage over before it truly begins. She hung up, satisfied. Eleanor Vale hadn't built her own fortune after leaving her husband by being easily defeated. If Christopher wouldn't protect the Vale name and legacy, she would do it for him, whether he liked it or not. Dinner that night was intimate, just Amara and Christopher in the small breakfast nook rather than the formal dining room. Martha had prepared their meal and discreetly disappeared, leaving them alone with candles and quiet music. This is nice, Amara said, looking around at the transformed space. Different. I thought we could use a fresh start. Christopher poured her a glass of wine. New surroundings for new beginnings. They ate and talked, really talked, for the first time in their marriage. Christopher told her about his childhood, about the loneliness after his mother left, about his father's emotional distance. Amara shared stories of growing up with her siblings, of her father's community activism, of her own dreams of opening a community arts center someday. You never told me about that, Christopher said, genuinely interested. You never asked. Amara's voice held no accusation, just a simple statement of fact. I'm asking now, he said softly. Tell me everything I've missed these past 5 years. By the time they finished dessert, something had shifted between them. The wall that had separated them for so long hadn't disappeared entirely, but there were cracks now, places where light could shine through. As they stood to clear the dishes, Christopher's phone rang. He glanced at it and frowned. It's the hospital. Dr. Patterson. Amara froze, her mind immediately going to her mother. But Josephine was upstairs, resting comfortably. Christopher answered, his expression growing increasingly concerned as he listened. I understand. Yes, we'll be right there. What is it? Amara asked as he hung up. It's Marcus. There's been an accident at his medical school lab, some kind of chemical exposure. He's asking for you. Amara's hand flew to her mouth. Is he? He's stable, but they're worried about lung damage. Dr. Patterson is overseeing his care personally. Christopher was already grabbing his keys. I'll drive, we can be there in 20 minutes. Once again, they rushed to the hospital together, but this time, Christopher's hand found hers in the car, offering comfort and support. He'll be okay, Christopher promised. I'll make sure he gets the best care possible. Amara looked at him, at this man who was suddenly so different from the cold, distant husband she'd known for 5 years. Why are you doing all this? Christopher kept his eyes on the road, but his voice was thick with emotion. Because you're my wife, Amara, and it's time I started acting like your husband. As they pulled into the hospital parking lot, Amara realized something that both thrilled and terrified her. She was starting to believe him. The hospital waiting room was eerily quiet at midnight. Amara sat with her head in her hands, exhausted after hours of worry. Across from her, Zoe had finally fallen asleep in an uncomfortable chair, her jacket balled up as a pillow. Christopher returned with 2 cups of coffee and sat beside Amara, handing her one. Any news? She shook her head. They're still running tests. Her voice was hoarse from crying. I can't believe this happened. His professor said the ventilation system malfunctioned during an experiment. Dr. Patterson has called in a pulmonary specialist, Christopher said. He should be here within the hour. Amara looked at him gratefully. You didn't have to stay, it's so late. I'm not going anywhere. His voice was firm, his blue eyes steady on hers. Besides, I've already called Martha. She's with your mother, and the night nurse is there too. Amara took a sip of the coffee, letting its warmth spread through her. I don't know what I would have done without you tonight. Christopher's hand found hers, his thumb gently stroking her knuckles. You would have managed. You're stronger than you realize. They sat in companionable silence, hands linked, waiting for news. Amara found herself leaning slightly against Christopher's shoulder, drawing comfort from his solid presence. 5 weeks ago, this closeness would have been unimaginable. Now it felt right. Dr. Patterson appeared in the doorway, looking tired but relieved. Ms. Ellison, your brother is stable. The exposure wasn't as severe as we initially feared. Amara stood quickly. Can I see him? Yes, but only for a few minutes. He needs rest. Christopher squeezed her hand. Go. I'll wake Zoe and tell her the news. Marcus was pale against the white hospital sheets, an oxygen mask covering his face, but his eyes brightened when Amara entered. You scared me half to death, she said, taking his hand. He removed the mask briefly. Sorry about that. Not my smoothest move. His voice was raspy. How are you feeling? Like I inhaled fire. He replaced the mask, took a few breaths, then removed it again. Christopher Vale is still here after midnight? Amara nodded. He's been here the whole time. He called in specialists, arranged everything. Marcus studied her face. Things really have changed between you two, haven't they? They're evolving. She adjusted his blanket, avoiding his eyes. It's complicated. Just be careful, Amara. Marcus's concern was evident despite his weakened state. 5 years of coldness doesn't disappear overnight. I know, she squeezed his hand, but people can change. I think he's trying. For your sake, I hope so. Marcus's eyes drifted closed, the medication pulling him towards sleep. Just remember you deserve the whole world, not just pieces of someone's attention. Amara sat with him until his breathing evened out in sleep, her heart conflicted. Her brother's warning echoed her own doubts. Could she really trust this new version of Christopher, or would she end up heartbroken when he retreated back behind his walls? It was nearly 3 a.m. when they arrived home. Christopher insisted on carrying a sleeping Zoe to her room, then walked Amara to her bedroom door. You should get some rest, he said softly. It's been a long night. Amara nodded, exhaustion weighing heavily on her. But as Christopher turned to leave, she caught his hand. Thank you for everything tonight. He looked down at their joined hands, then back to her face. You don't need to thank me. I do, though. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Tonight you showed me who you could be, who we could be together. Something intense flashed in Christopher's eyes. For a moment, Amara thought he might kiss her. Her heart raced at the possibility. Instead, he lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. Good night, Amara. Sweet dreams. It was such a small gesture, but it sent warmth spreading through her entire body. She watched him walk down the hall to his own room, wondering if tonight had changed everything between them. Morning came too quickly. Amara woke to knocking on her door. Zoe burst in without waiting for a response, her face full of excitement. You need to come downstairs, right now. Amara rubbed sleep from her eyes. What's wrong? Is it Mom? Marcus? Nothing's wrong. Just hurry up. Zoe was practically bouncing with energy. Curious and concerned, Amara threw on a robe and followed her sister downstairs. When they reached the main hall, Zoe gestured toward the living room with a grin. Look. Amara peeked in and froze in surprise. The formal living room, always perfectly decorated but rarely used, had been transformed. In the center stood an upright piano, gleaming in the morning light. Christopher stood beside it, looking slightly nervous. Good morning. What is this? Amara asked, stepping into the room. You mentioned last night at dinner that you used to play, that your father taught you, but you haven't touched a piano since college. He ran his hand along the polished wood. I thought maybe you'd like to play again. Amara approached the piano slowly, as if it might disappear if she moved too quickly. You bought this for me. I had it delivered this morning. Christopher's voice was soft. Is it okay? If you don't like it, it's beautiful, she whispered, sitting on the bench and running her fingers lightly over the keys. The tone was rich and perfect. I can't believe you remembered what I said. I'm trying to remember everything now. He sat beside her on the bench, careful not to crowd her. Will you play something? Amara hesitated, then began a simple melody, a song her father had taught her when she was young. Her fingers were rusty at first, but the muscle memory soon returned. The music filled the room, sweet and nostalgic. Christopher watched her, transfixed by the transformation in her face as she played. For the first time since he'd known her, Amara looked truly happy, lost in the music and the memories it brought. When she finished, she looked up to find him staring at her with an expression she'd never seen before, tender, almost reverent. That was beautiful, he said softly. Thank you for this. Amara gestured to the piano. It's the most thoughtful gift anyone has ever given me. Their eyes held, something powerful building between them. Then Zoe cleared her throat from the doorway. Hate to interrupt this moment, but Mom's asking for you, Amara. Reluctantly, Amara stood. I should go see her, but I'll be back to play more later. As she walked away, Christopher called after her. Amara, I have to go to the office for a few hours. Important board meeting. But I'd like to take you to dinner tonight. Somewhere special. She turned, a small smile playing on her lips. I'd like that. Eleanor Vale sat in the plush office of Michael Davis, Christopher's main competitor and her longtime friend. At 65, Michael was still handsome in a silver foxway, his custom suit emphasizing his trim physique. Thank you for meeting me on such short notice, Eleanor said, accepting the glass of scotch he offered. For you, Eleanor, any time. Michael's smile was calculating. Though I must admit I was surprised by your call. You said it concerns Christopher and his wife. Eleanor's tone made the words sound distasteful. He's becoming attached to her, emotionally involved. Michael raised an eyebrow. I was under the impression their marriage was purely one of convenience. It was, until recently. Eleanor sipped her scotch. Now he's bringing her family into our home, refusing the annulment, even standing up to me. And this concerns me how? Eleanor smiled thinly. Because a Christopher focused on his marriage is a Christopher distracted from Vale Technologies, a vulnerability you could exploit. Michael leaned back in his chair, considering. Go on. I've had someone looking into Amara's family. Her brother Marcus was involved in an accident at his medical school last night. I heard. Chemical exposure of some kind. What you didn't hear is that it might not have been an accident. Eleanor's eyes gleamed. My sources tell me Marcus has been working on a research project, one with significant pharmaceutical applications. A project funded partly by Vale Technologies. Michael sat forward. Christopher is funding his brother-in-law's research? Without board approval, he set it up through a separate account to avoid scrutiny. Eleanor smiled. Now imagine what would happen if the board discovered this conflict of interest. Or if someone suggested the accident was actually an attempt to hide research problems. Michael's eyes narrowed. What exactly are you proposing, Eleanor? Nothing illegal, of course. Just a strategic leak to the right board members. Create enough doubt about Christopher's judgment, enough questions about his personal entanglements affecting company decisions. She shrugged. The board might decide Vale Technologies needs new leadership. And you think they'd turn to me? With the right approach, the right allies? Yes. Eleanor finished her scotch. Christopher has forgotten what's important. The Vale legacy. The company his father built. He's letting emotions cloud his judgment. Michael studied her for a long moment. You're willing to betray your own son. I'm willing to save him from himself, Eleanor corrected. And if you help me, there will be benefits for Davis Technologies as well. Michael stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city skyline. I'll need proof of this research funding. Documentation. Eleanor reached into her purse and pulled out a flash drive, already taken care of. Christopher's board meeting ran longer than expected. By the time he returned home, it was almost time for his dinner with Amara. He hurried upstairs to change, a lightness in his step that had been absent for years. His phone rang as he was adjusting his tie. The screen showed James, his assistant. This better be important, Christopher answered. Sir, there's something you need to know. James's voice was tense. There are rumors circulating among the board members about Marcus Ellison's research project. Christopher froze. What rumors? That you've been funding it off the books. That the accident last night might be related to problems with the research. That's ridiculous. The accident was due to a ventilation failure. I know that, sir. But Michael Davis has been speaking with board members, suggesting an investigation. Christopher's jaw tightened. Michael Davis. Of course. He thought for a moment. Who else knows about this? Just a few board members so far, but it's spreading quickly. Call an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. I'll address it directly. Christopher ended the call, his mind racing. He had indeed been funding Marcus's research, a revolutionary approach to treating multiple sclerosis, inspired by Josephine's condition. But he'd kept it quiet, not wanting Amara to know until they had results to share. Now that private decision threatened to become a public scandal, and somehow Michael Davis was involved, which meant his mother was likely behind it all. A soft knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. Amara stood there, stunning in a simple blue dress, her hair swept up elegantly. Are you ready? She asked, then frowned when she saw his expression. What's wrong? Christopher forced a smile. Nothing important, just a work issue. We can cancel dinner if you need to handle it. Absolutely not. He walked to her, taking her hands in his. Nothing is more important than tonight. The restaurant was exclusive and intimate, with private alcoves for each table and soft jazz playing in the background. Christopher had reserved the best table, overlooking the city lights. Amara looked around in appreciation. This is beautiful. Not as beautiful as you, Christopher said, his eyes never leaving her face. She blushed, still unaccustomed to compliments from him. Careful, Mr. Vale. That almost sounded like flirting. Good, because that's exactly what it was. His smile was warm, genuine. Throughout dinner, Christopher was attentive and charming. He asked questions about her day, listened intently to her answers, shared stories from his own past. It felt like a real date, their first, despite 5 years of marriage. I called the hospital earlier, Christopher said as they finished dessert. Marcus is doing well. They're releasing him tomorrow. I know. I spoke with him too. Amara tilted her head. He said you've arranged for a nurse to check on him daily at his apartment. Christopher nodded. I wanted to make sure he has proper care. You're doing so much for my family. Amara's voice grew serious. Sometimes I wonder why. Because they're important to you. Christopher reached across the table, taking her hand. And you're important to me. Amara studied his face, searching for any sign of insincerity. She found none. When did that happen? She asked softly. When did I become important to you? Christopher's thumb stroked the back of her hand. I think you always were. I was just too afraid to admit it, even to myself. And now you're not afraid? Now I'm terrified, he admitted with a small smile. But I'm more afraid of losing you than I am of loving you. The word hung between them. Love. Neither had said it directly, but it was there in the air, in the tender way he looked at her, in the warmth of his hand on hers. Christopher, Amara began, her heart racing. His phone buzzed, interrupting the moment. He glanced at it and frowned. I'm sorry. I need to take this. He stood, moving a few steps away to answer. Amara watched him, noting how his posture stiffened, how his face grew tight with tension. Whatever the call was about, it wasn't good news. When he returned to the table, his expression was troubled. I'm sorry, but we need to cut the evening short. There's a situation at the company I need to handle. Of course, Amara said, hiding her disappointment. Is everything okay? It will be, he signaled for the check. I just need to deal with something before it gets out of hand. The ride home was quiet. Christopher lost in thought as he drove. Amara wanted to ask what was wrong, but sensed he wasn't ready to share. When they arrived at the house, Christopher walked her to the door, then surprised her by taking both her hands in his. I'm sorry about tonight. It was supposed to be perfect. It was lovely, she assured him. Work emergencies happen. He looked at her with such intensity it made her breath catch. Amara, I need you to know something. No matter what you might hear in the coming days, everything I've done has been with the best intentions. What do you mean? What would I hear? Nothing, hopefully. He squeezed her hands. Just know that I care about you. About us. That's real. Before she could question him further, he leaned in and kissed her, their first real kiss in 5 years of marriage. It was gentle at first, almost hesitant, but when Amara responded, it deepened into something more passionate, more urgent. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathless. Christopher rested his forehead against hers, eyes closed. I've wanted to do that for so long, he whispered. Amara's heart pounded in her chest. Why didn't you? I told myself I didn't deserve to. He pulled back slightly to look into her eyes. Maybe I still don't, but I can't fight this anymore. He kissed her once more, softly. I have to go back out. Don't wait up for me. Amara watched him drive away, her fingers touching her lips, still feeling the imprint of his kiss. Inside the house, Amara found Zoe waiting for her in the kitchen, a knowing smile on her face. So, how was the big date? It was amazing, until he got an emergency call from work. Amara sat at the counter, still dazed from the kiss. Zoe, he kissed me. Zoe's eyes widened. Well, it's about time. How was it? Perfect. Amara couldn't help the smile that spread across her face. It felt like coming home. Wow. Zoe studied her sister. You're falling for him, aren't you? For real this time? I think maybe I am. Amara's voice was soft, almost wondering. Is that crazy? After everything? A little, Zoe admitted, but the heart wants what it wants. She reached across the counter to squeeze Amara's hand. Just be sure, sis. Be really sure before you give him your heart completely. I'm trying to be careful, but the way he's been lately. Amara shook her head. It's like meeting a whole new person. Or maybe the real person was there all along, just buried under a bunch of emotional baggage. Zoe stood and stretched. I'm going to check on Mom before bed. Don't overthink this, okay? Just enjoy it. After Zoe left, Amara wandered into the living room, drawn to the piano. She sat on the bench and began to play softly, her heart full of conflicting emotions. Joy at Christopher's kiss, worry about his mysterious work emergency, hope for their future together. The melody flowed from her fingers, filling the quiet house with music. She didn't notice Martha watching from the doorway, a concerned expression on the housekeeper's face. Christopher drove straight to Vale Technologies headquarters, his mind racing. The call had been from James. Michael Davis was meeting with key board members tonight, showing them documents about Marcus's research funding. The building was mostly empty at this hour, just security guards and a few workaholics. Christopher took the elevator to the executive floor, where James was waiting with a worried expression. How bad is it? Christopher asked without preamble. Bad. Davis has financial records showing the transfers to Marcus's research account. He's spinning it as a conflict of interest, suggesting you've been using company resources for personal reasons. Christopher's jaw tightened. Where is he now? Conference room B with Wilson, Jansen, and Chen, three of the most influential board members. Not good. Christopher straightened his tie and headed for the conference room. When he pushed open the door, 4 heads turned his way. Michael Davis smiled thinly. Christopher, what a surprise. Is it? Christopher's voice was cold as he surveyed the room. Holding secret meetings about my company seems a bit desperate, even for you, Michael. Your company? Michael raised an eyebrow. The board might have something to say about that given recent revelations. Board member Wilson, a gray-haired man in his 60s, looked uncomfortable. Christopher, these documents raise serious questions about your judgment. What documents exactly? Christopher asked, though he already knew. Michael slid a folder across the table. Financial records showing you've been funding Marcus Ellison's research. Your brother-in-law, without board approval. Christopher looked at the records, his mind already calculating who could have accessed this information. Only a handful of people knew about the special account, including his mother. Yes, I funded the research, he said calmly. With my personal funds, not company money. Michael smirked. The transfers came from a Vale Technologies subsidiary account. An account I own personally. It's structured under the company for tax purposes, but the funds are mine to allocate as I see fit. Christopher looked each board member in the eye. This was a personal investment in potentially groundbreaking MS research that could help thousands of people, including my mother-in-law. Board member Chen frowned. Why keep it secret from the board? Because it wasn't ready for company involvement yet. I wanted preliminary results before bringing it to you as a potential Vale Technologies investment. Christopher's voice hardened. And because I knew there were people who would try to use my personal life against me. His eyes landed on Michael, who had the grace to look slightly uncomfortable. Gentlemen, Christopher continued, I understand your concerns. But ask yourselves this, why is Michael Davis, our chief competitor, so interested in my family matters, and who gave him access to Vale Technologies' financial records? The board members exchanged glances. Wilson cleared his throat. You raise a fair point. I've always put this company first, Christopher said. My father built Vale Technologies on integrity and innovation. I've continued that legacy. He paused. But I won't apologize for supporting medical research that could save lives. And I won't let anyone use my family against me or this company. The tension in the room was palpable. Finally, Chen spoke. I think we need to discuss this matter further, without outside parties present. He looked pointedly at Michael. Michael stood, gathering his papers. Consider carefully who you want leading Vale Technologies, gentlemen. Someone whose personal entanglements cloud his judgment, or someone focused solely on shareholder value. After he left, Christopher faced the board members. I want a full investigation into how Davis obtained those financial records. Someone betrayed this company, and I intend to find out who. The meeting continued for another hour, Christopher methodically addressing each concern, explaining his actions, reassuring the board of his commitment to Vale Technologies. By the time it ended, he'd managed to contain the damage, for now. But as he drove home in the early hours of the morning, one thought dominated his mind. His mother was behind this. She was trying to destroy his marriage by attacking Amara's family, and he couldn't let her succeed. Amara was already awake when Christopher finally returned home. She sat in the kitchen with a cup of tea, unable to sleep after their kiss and his cryptic warning. He looked exhausted when he saw her. His tie loosened, his hair mussed from running his hands through it repeatedly. "You're still up," he said, surprise evident in his voice. "Couldn't sleep." She pushed a mug toward him. "I made you some coffee. It should still be hot." The simple gesture seemed to touch him deeply. He took the mug, his fingers brushing hers. "Thank you." "Bad night?" He sighed, sitting across from her at the counter. "You could say that." Amara studied his face, noting the tension around his eyes, the tight set of his jaw. "Do you want to talk about it?" Christopher hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. "Yes, actually, there's something I need to tell you, and I'd rather you hear it from me." He took a deep breath. "I've been funding Marcus's research project, the one on MS treatments." Amara's eyes widened in surprise. "You have? Since when?" "About 8 months ago. He approached me with his proposal. It was brilliant, innovative. I saw the potential immediately, not just as a business investment, but as something that could help your mother. Why didn't you tell me?" "At first, because we barely spoke to each other," he admitted. "Then, more recently, because I wanted it to be a surprise. I was hoping for positive results before I told you." Amara processed this information. "And the accident at the lab, was it related to the research?" "No. It was a ventilation system failure, just as they said." Christopher ran a hand through his hair. "But someone is trying to suggest otherwise, to create a scandal involving Marcus's research and my funding of it." "Who would do that?" Christopher's expression darkened. "My mother and Michael Davis." He explained about the emergency board meeting, the accusations, his mother's likely involvement. "She's trying to drive us apart," he concluded, "to end our marriage by any means necessary." Amara felt a chill run through her. "Why tell me this now?" "Because I don't want any more secrets between us." He reached across the counter to take her hand. "Because I'm done hiding from what I feel for you." Their eyes met, and Amara saw the same intensity there that had preceded their kiss earlier that night. "And what do you feel?" she asked softly. Christopher stood and came around the counter, pulling her to her feet and into his arms. "I think you know." His kiss was different this time, deeper, more certain, filled with promise. Amara melted against him, her arms winding around his neck as she returned the kiss with equal passion. When they broke apart, Christopher rested his forehead against hers. "I've wasted so much time, Amara. 5 years we could have had together." "We still have time," she whispered. "If that's what you want." "It's all I want." His voice was rough with emotion. "You're all I want." He kissed her again, and Amara felt the last of her doubts begin to fade. This was real, he was real. Their feelings for each other were real. But as Christopher held her close, she couldn't help wondering what his mother would do next and how far she would go to tear them apart. The next morning, Amara woke to find a single red rose on the pillow beside her. A note was attached in Christopher's handwriting. "Every morning should begin with beauty, like waking up to you." She smiled, bringing the flower to her nose to inhale its sweet scent. Last night had ended with more kisses, but Christopher had been a gentleman, walking her to her bedroom door and saying good night, despite the desire evident in his eyes. They both knew they needed time, to be sure, to heal, to trust completely. Downstairs, she found Zoe and Josephine in the sunroom, having breakfast together. Her mother looked better than she had in months, color in her cheeks, a sparkle back in her eyes. "There she is," Josephine said with a knowing smile. "The woman who got home very late last night." Amara blushed. "Mom, oh, don't mom me. I may be sick, but I'm not blind. Something's changed between you and Christopher." Zoe grinned. "She kissed him, Mom, or he kissed her. Either way, there was definitely kissing involved." "Zoe," Amara protested, though she couldn't help smiling. Josephine reached for her daughter's hand. "It's about time. That man has been looking at you like a starving man at a feast for weeks now." "It's more than that," Amara said, sitting beside her mother. "He's really trying, Mom, to be a husband, to be part of this family." "I know, baby." Josephine patted her hand. "I've seen the change in him. Just be careful with your heart." "That's what I told her," Zoe chimed in. "I am being careful," Amara assured them. "But I also think this might be real," Josephine smiled. "Love often comes when we least expect it. Sometimes it takes years to bloom, but when it does," she looked at her daughters with affection, "it's worth the wait." The moment was interrupted by Martha, who entered with a troubled expression. "Mrs. Vale, there's someone here to see you. A Ms. Lisa Warren?" Amara froze. Lisa, Christopher's ex-girlfriend, the woman who had betrayed him, sold his secrets, broken his trust. "She's very insistent," Martha added. "Says it's urgent." Amara exchanged a look with Zoe, who shrugged in confusion. "Show her in, Martha." A moment later, a stunning blonde woman entered the sunroom. She was expensively dressed, her makeup perfect, her smile practiced. "Amara Vale?" she asked, though she clearly knew the answer. "I'm Lisa Warren. I think we need to talk." Amara stood, instinctively placing herself between Lisa and her family. "What about?" "About Christopher, of course." Lisa's smile turned cold. "And about the truth of your marriage. The truth I think you deserve to know." Amara's heart pounded in her chest. "I know all I need to know about my marriage." "Do you?" Lisa tilted her head. "Do you know why Christopher really married you? Why he kept you at arm's length for 5 years?" "Lisa," Amara said evenly, "I think you should leave. Not until you hear what I have to say." Lisa pulled an envelope from her purse. "These are emails between Christopher and his mother from 5 years ago, right before he married you." She held out the envelope. "Read them, then decide if his sudden change of heart is real or if it's just another calculated move in the game he's been playing all along." Amara stared at the envelope but didn't take it. "Why would I believe anything from you? Christopher told me what you did to him." "Did he tell you everything?" Lisa's eyes gleamed. "Did he tell you I was pregnant with his child when he ended things? Did he tell you his mother paid me to disappear?" Amara felt as if the floor had dropped out from under her. "What?" "Ask him about the baby, Amara. Ask him what really happened 5 years ago." Lisa placed the envelope on a nearby table. "And when you're ready for the whole truth, read these." With that, she turned and walked out, leaving a stunned silence in her wake. Zoe was the first to speak. "Well, that was dramatic." Josephine looked at Amara with concern. "Baby, are you okay?" Amara stared at the envelope, her mind racing. Could Lisa be telling the truth? Or was this another manipulation, perhaps orchestrated by Eleanor Vale? "I don't know," she answered honestly, "but I'm going to find out." Christopher spent the morning in emergency meetings, damage control in full swing. By noon, he'd convinced most of the board that Marcus's research funding was above board and had launched an investigation into the security breach that had allowed Michael Davis access to confidential records. He was just finishing a call when James appeared in his doorway looking uncomfortable. "Sir, there's something you should know. Lisa Warren was seen entering your house this morning." Christopher felt as if he'd been punched in the stomach. "Lisa, you're sure?" Security cameras confirmed it. She was there for about 15 minutes. Christopher was already grabbing his coat. "Cancel my afternoon. I need to go home. Now." The drive felt endless, his mind racing with possibilities, none of them good. Lisa. Why now? After all these years, it had to be his mother's doing. Another attack on his marriage, on his happiness with Amara. When he finally reached the house, he found Amara in the garden, sitting alone on a bench, staring at an envelope in her hands. "Amara," he called, approaching cautiously. She looked up, her expression unreadable. "You heard that Lisa was here?" "Yes." He sat beside her, noticing how she shifted slightly away. "What did she say to you?" Amara held up the envelope. "She gave me these emails between you and your mother from 5 years ago, about our marriage." Christopher's jaw tightened. "Have you read them?" "Not yet." Her eyes searched his face. "Should I?" "They're probably manipulated, taken out of context." He reached for the envelope, but Amara pulled it back. "That's not an answer, Christopher." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "My mother and I discussed many things before our marriage. Some of them wouldn't sound good now." "Like what?" Christopher looked away. "Like the advantages of marrying Gerald Ellison's daughter, the positive press it would generate, the appearance of fulfilling a debt of honor." Amara's expression hardened. "So it was all calculated, a business decision." "At first, yes," he admitted. "I won't lie to you, Amara. When we married, I was still broken from what Lisa did. I didn't believe in love anymore. I saw our marriage as a transaction, a way to help your family while improving Vale Technology's image." The hurt in Amara's eyes was like a knife to his heart. "And now?" she asked quietly. "Now everything has changed." He reached for her hand, relieved when she didn't pull away. "Now I see you, really see you, the woman I've been living with for 5 years, the woman I should have known all along." Lisa said something else. Amara's voice was barely audible. "She said she was pregnant when you ended things, that your mother paid her to disappear." Christopher went very still. "She told you that? Is it true?" He stood abruptly, walking a few steps away before turning back to her. "Lisa claimed she was pregnant. I had no reason to believe her. She'd already lied to me about so many things. But my mother, she was afraid of a scandal. She offered Lisa money to go away, to take care of the problem. And did she take care of it? I don't know, Christopher said, his voice strained. She took the money and disappeared. I never heard from her again, until today apparently. Amara stood, clutching the envelope to her chest. What else haven't you told me? What other secrets are there? Amara, please. He moved toward her, reaching for her hands. Everything that matters. Everything about us, about how I feel for you, that's all true. She stepped back. I need time to think, to process all this. Don't let my mother win, Christopher pleaded. Don't let her drive us apart again. This isn't about your mother, Amara said firmly. This is about trust, about honesty. How can we build something real if it's founded on secrets? Christopher looked stricken. You're right. I should have told you everything. He took a deep breath. Ask me anything, no more secrets. Amara studied his face, seeing the sincerity there, but the hurt was still too fresh. I need space, Christopher. Time to think. She turned and walked back toward the house, leaving him standing alone in the garden, the weight of 5 years of silence finally crashing down around him. Amara spent the rest of the day with her mother, finding comfort in Josephine's steady presence. They didn't speak much about Lisa's visit or the envelope, which remained unopened on Amara's bedside table. Sometimes, Josephine said as evening approached, the hardest thing to do is to trust again after being hurt. Amara looked up from the book she'd been pretending to read. I'm not sure I can. That's for you to decide, baby. Josephine reached for her daughter's hand. But ask yourself this, is what you're feeling now, this hurt, this doubt, worse than how you felt during those 5 years of loneliness? The question struck Amara like a physical blow. I don't know. Yes, you do. Josephine's eyes were kind, but knowing. The question is whether you're brave enough to admit it. That night, unable to sleep, Amara finally opened the envelope. The emails inside were indeed exchanges between Christopher and Eleanor from 5 years ago, discussing the strategic advantages of marrying Gerald Ellison's daughter. The press will love the story, Eleanor had written. Marrying the daughter of the man who saved your life. It will generate goodwill for the company during the merger. Christopher's response had been equally calculating. As long as expectations are clear from the beginning, this is a marriage of convenience, nothing more. I have no intention of developing any real attachment. Amara's eyes filled with tears as she read. It was all there in black and white, the cold, businesslike approach to their union, exactly as Christopher had admitted. But the last email in the stack gave her pause. It was from Christopher to his mother, dated just days before their wedding. The arrangement is set, but I want one thing clear. Amara Ellison will be treated with respect. She is making a sacrifice for her family, and I won't have her dignity compromised. She may not be the wife I would have chosen in different circumstances, but she will be my wife in name, and that name carries weight. Remember that. Amara read the email twice, trying to understand what it meant. Even then, when he had been at his most closed off, Christopher had defended her, protected her dignity, demanded she be respected. It wasn't love, not even close, but it was something, a foundation, perhaps, on which something real could have been built, if either of them had tried, if either of them had broken 5 years of silence sooner. Morning light filtered through the curtains as Amara stood at her bedroom window, watching the gardeners work below. She'd barely slept, her mind too full of conflicting thoughts and emotions. Christopher had been gone when she came down for breakfast. Martha informed her that he'd left early for the office, but had asked the housekeeper to deliver a note. Amara unfolded it now, reading the familiar handwriting. Amara, I understand your need for space, and I respect it. I'll be staying at the penthouse apartment downtown for a few days to give you time to think. I meant what I said yesterday. No more secrets. When you're ready to talk, I'll answer any question you have, no matter how difficult. What began as an arrangement 5 years ago has become the most important relationship in my life. I hope you can find it in your heart to believe that. Christopher. She folded the note carefully and placed it in the drawer with all her unsent letters, the ones that had detailed her loneliness over the years. The contrast between those painful confessions and Christopher's recent words and actions was stark. People could change, she knew that. But could she trust that his change was genuine? That it would last? A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Zoe peeked in, her expression concerned. You okay, sis? You barely touched your breakfast. Amara sighed. I don't know what I am right now. Zoe entered and sat on the edge of the bed. Did you read the emails? Yes. Amara joined her sister. They confirmed what Christopher already admitted, that our marriage was strategic, calculated. That's not exactly news, Zoe pointed out. You always knew that. I know, but seeing it spelled out like that, Amara shook her head. And then there's the Lisa situation. You mean the conveniently timed appearance of the ex-girlfriend? Zoe raised an eyebrow. Doesn't that seem suspicious to you? Right when you and Christopher are finally connecting? Amara had considered this. You think Eleanor sent her? Of course she did. That woman is determined to break you two up. Zoe took her sister's hand. The question is, are you going to let her? It's not that simple. Christopher kept secrets, important ones, about Lisa, about a possible child. From what you told me, he didn't know if there even was a child, and this all happened before you met him. Zoe squeezed Amara's hand. Look, I'm not saying you should just forgive everything instantly, but maybe give him a chance to explain, to prove himself. Amara was quiet for a moment. What if we're rushing into this? A few weeks ago, we barely spoke to each other. Now suddenly we're talking about real feelings, a real marriage. 5 years isn't exactly rushing, Zoe said dryly. Besides, sometimes it takes a crisis to make people realize what they really want. And what do I want? Zoe gave her a knowing look. I think you already know the answer to that. Christopher sat in his office, staring out at the city skyline without really seeing it. The emergency board meeting had gone well. He'd managed to contain the damage from his mother's scheming, at least for now, but none of that mattered if he lost Amara. 5 years. 5 years of keeping her at arm's length, of denying his growing feelings, of hiding behind the safety of their arrangement. And now that he'd finally opened his heart, everything was falling apart. A knock at his door pulled him from his thoughts. James entered, looking uncomfortable. Sir, your mother is here. She's quite insistent on seeing you. Christopher's jaw tightened. Send her in. Eleanor Vale swept into the office moments later, elegant as always in a designer suit, her blonde hair perfectly coiffed. Christopher, darling, we need to talk. About what, Mother? About how you leaked confidential information to Michael Davis, or about how you sent Lisa to my house to upset my wife? Eleanor's expression betrayed nothing. I don't know what you're talking about. Please, Christopher's voice was cold. Don't insult my intelligence. I know it was you behind both incidents. The question is why? Why are you so determined to destroy my marriage? Eleanor sat in the chair across from his desk, crossing her legs elegantly. I'm trying to save you from making a terrible mistake. This sudden infatuation with Amara will pass, but the damage to the Vale name, to the company, could be permanent. Infatuation? Christopher shook his head in disbelief. Mother, I love her. The words fell from his lips so naturally, so truthfully, that they surprised even him. It was the first time he'd said it aloud, though he'd been feeling it for weeks now. Eleanor's eyes widened slightly. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Christopher stood, looking down at the woman who had abandoned him as a child, who had only reappeared when there was something to gain. Amara is my wife, the woman I choose to spend my life with, and if you can't accept that, then you have no place in that life. You're making a mistake, Eleanor insisted. She's not one of us. She'll never fit into our world. No, she's better than our world. Christopher moved toward the door. She has integrity, compassion, loyalty, qualities you might not recognize, Mother, but that I've come to value above all else. This isn't over, Christopher, Eleanor warned as he held the door open for her. Yes, it is. His voice was final. Whatever scheme you're planning next, whatever manipulation you think will work, save yourself the effort. I've made my choice. Now I suggest you make yours. Accept Amara as my wife, or accept that you no longer have a son. Eleanor stared at him for a long moment, then gathered her purse and walked out without another word. Christopher closed the door behind her, his heart racing. He'd done it. Stood up to his mother once and for all, declared his love for Amara. Now he just had to prove to Amara that his love was real, that it would last, that after 5 years of silence, he was finally ready to speak the truth. Amara spent the afternoon at the hospital with Marcus, who was being released after his accident. He looked better, though still weak, as she helped him settle into his apartment. So, he said once she'd arranged his medications on the kitchen counter, Zoe tells me there's drama in paradise. Amara shot him a look. Zoe talks too much. She's worried about you. We both are. Marcus sat carefully on the couch, wincing slightly. What's going on with you and Christopher? Amara sighed, joining him. It's complicated. Life usually is. He studied her face. Do you love him? The directness of the question caught her off guard. I don't know. Yes, you do, Marcus said, echoing their mother's words from the night before. You're just afraid to admit it. Amara was quiet for a moment. For 5 years, I convinced myself not to care, not to want more. It was easier that way, safer. And now? Now everything's different. He's different, and I don't know if I can trust it. Marcus took her hand. Remember what Dad used to say. Trust is a choice, not a feeling. You choose to trust someone, even knowing they might hurt you. But what if I'm wrong? What if this is all temporary and he goes back to being cold and distant? Then you'll have taken a risk for something that mattered. Marcus squeezed her hand. Like you did 5 years ago when you married him to help us. Like Dad did when he pushed Christopher out of the way of that car. That was different, Amara protested. Was it? Marcus raised an eyebrow. Both were acts of courage. Both were choices made with an uncertain outcome. Amara considered his words. When did you get so wise? Must be all those pain medications, he joked, then grew serious. Look, I'm not saying forgive everything overnight, but maybe give him a chance to prove himself, to show you who he really is now. That seems to be the consensus, Amara said with a small smile. Mom and Zoe said basically the same thing. Well, the Ellisons are a smart bunch. Marcus grinned. Now I believe you promised me soup. Amara stood grateful for the change of subject, coming right up. As she moved around her brother's small kitchen, her mind kept returning to Christopher's note. What began as an arrangement 5 years ago has become the most important relationship in my life. Was it possible? Could their contract marriage have evolved into something real, something lasting? And more importantly, was she brave enough to find out? By the time Amara returned to the Vale mansion that evening, she had made a decision. She would talk to Christopher, hear him out completely. No more running, no more hiding from difficult truths. She was surprised to find him in the living room, playing softly on the piano he'd bought for her. He looked up when she entered, his fingers stilling on the keys. You're back, she said, stopping in the doorway. I know I said I'd give you space, he replied, standing, but I couldn't stay away, not when there's so much at stake. Amara moved further into the room. I was going to call you. I think we need to talk, really talk. I agree. Christopher gestured to the couch. Please. They sat, a careful distance between them. The air felt charged with all they needed to say. I saw my mother today, Christopher began. I told her that if she couldn't accept you as my wife, then she no longer had a son. Amara's eyes widened. Christopher, you didn't have to... Yes, I did. His voice was firm. She was behind everything. The leak to Michael Davis sending Lisa to upset you. She thought she could drive us apart, make me choose the company over you. He shook his head. She was wrong. About what? About my priorities. Christopher shifted closer. Amara, these past weeks have shown me what truly matters. Not Vale Technologies, not my mother's approval, not some twisted notion of the Vale legacy. What matters is you, us, the life we could build together if you're willing to give me a second chance. Amara took a deep breath. I read the emails. Christopher nodded, his expression pained. I'm not proud of how I approached our marriage back then. I was cold, calculating. But you also defended me, she said softly. Even then you insisted I be treated with respect. Because even then I admired you, he admitted. Your strength, your dignity, your willingness to sacrifice for your family. I just wasn't ready to admit how much. Amara was quiet for a moment. Tell me about Lisa. The whole truth. Christopher sighed, running a hand through his hair. Lisa and I dated in college. She was beautiful, charming, and as I later discovered, only interested in my money. When I found out she'd been selling stories about me to the tabloids, I ended things. And the pregnancy? A week later, she came to me claiming she was pregnant. Given her history of lies, I was skeptical. But my mother, he shook his head. My mother panicked, offered her money to go away, to handle it quietly. Did you ever find out if there really was a baby? No. Lisa took the money and disappeared. I tried to find her afterward, to make sure she was okay, but she'd left the country. Christopher looked directly into Amara's eyes. I should have told you all this years ago. I'm sorry. Amara nodded, processing his words. What else haven't you told me? About us, about our marriage? Christopher was quiet for a moment, as if gathering his thoughts. After we married, I told myself I was just fulfilling an obligation to your father, that keeping my distance was the right thing to do. His voice softened. But the truth is, I was afraid of caring too much, of being vulnerable again. So what changed? Why now, after 5 years? It wasn't one moment. It was 1,000 little moments. Christopher's eyes were intense. It was watching you with your mother, seeing your kindness with the staff, hearing you play the piano. It was finding your letter and realizing how deeply I'd hurt you with my silence. He reached for her hand, and this time, She didn't pull away. Amara, I spent 5 years pretending not to see you, not to feel anything. I don't want to pretend anymore. The sincerity in his voice, in his eyes, made her heart race. Christopher, He placed a gentle finger on her lips. Before you say anything, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have said days ago. Christopher took both her hands in his eyes never leaving hers. I love you, Amara. Not because of our arrangement, not because of our father's wishes. I love you because of who you are. Strong, compassionate, forgiving. I love your loyalty to your family, your quiet dignity, your resilience. Tears filled Amara's eyes as the words she'd never expected to hear washed over her. I know I don't deserve a second chance, Christopher continued, his voice rough with emotion. I know 5 years is a long time to waste, but if you'll let me, I want to spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Amara took a shaky breath. I'm afraid, she admitted. Afraid to believe this is real. Afraid it won't last. I'm afraid too, he said softly. Afraid I've realized too late what was right in front of me all along. Afraid you won't be able to forgive 5 years of silence. Their eyes held, both vulnerable, both exposed in a way they'd never been before. What do we do now? Amara whispered. Christopher brought her hands to his lips, kissing them gently. We start over. We build something real day by day. No more pretending, no more distance. And if it doesn't work, then at least we'll know we tried. His eyes were steady on hers. But I believe in us, Amara. I believe we can find what our fathers hoped for us. Not because they arranged it, but because we choose it for ourselves. Amara felt something shift inside her, a wall crumbling that had protected her heart for 5 long years. I want to believe that too. Then believe it, Christopher urged, moving closer. Believe in us. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. But Amara didn't move, her heart pounding as his lips met hers in a kiss that felt like a promise, like a beginning. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. I need you to know something too. What's that? He whispered. I think I'm falling in love with you, she admitted, the words both terrifying and freeing. The real you, the man who arranged treatment for my mother, who supports my brother's research, who bought me a piano because he remembered I used to play. Christopher's smile was radiant. Say it again. I'm falling in love with you, Amara repeated, more confidently this time. And it scares me to death. We'll be scared together, he promised, pulling her close. No more silence between us, Amara. No more distance, just truth from now on. She nodded against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. Truth, she agreed. The weeks that followed were a revelation for both Amara and Christopher. Each day brought new discoveries, new connections, as they built a real relationship from the foundation of their arrangement. Christopher moved his things into Amara's bedroom, both of them agreeing that they needed a fresh start, away from the room he'd occupied during their years of separation. They talked for hours each night, sharing stories from their childhoods, dreams for the future, fears they'd never voiced to another soul. During the day, they worked together, Christopher focusing on Veil Technologies, Amara developing plans for the community arts center she'd always dreamed of opening. Christopher surprised her by purchasing a building in her old neighborhood, offering it as a space for her vision to take shape. It's your project, he insisted, when she protested that it was too much. I'm just providing the canvas. The masterpiece will be all yours. Josephine watched their blossoming relationship with satisfaction. I always knew there was something there, she told Amara one afternoon as they sat in the garden. Even when you two barely spoke to each other, I could see it in the way he looked at you when he thought no one was watching. Why didn't you say anything? Amara asked. Josephine smiled. Some things people need to discover for themselves in their own time. Marcus's research continued to show promise, with Christopher now openly supporting the project. Zoe visited on weekends, delighted by the transformation in her sister's marriage. It's like watching one of those cheesy romance movies, she teased, except better because it's real. The only shadow on their happiness was Eleanor Vale. True to form, she hadn't given up easily. She made several attempts to meet with board members to plant doubts about Christopher's leadership, but each attempt failed, his position now stronger than ever. She'll get tired eventually, Christopher assured Amara, or she'll find some other target for her manipulation. Amara wasn't so sure, but she chose not to let Eleanor's schemes overshadow their newfound happiness. On the morning of their 5th wedding anniversary, Amara woke to find Christopher already up, sitting on the edge of the bed watching her. That's slightly creepy, she murmured with a sleepy smile, just appreciating the view. He leaned down to kiss her softly. Happy anniversary. Amara wrapped her arms around his neck, pulling him closer. Happy anniversary. For a moment, they just held each other, both marveling at how much had changed in the past few months. "I have something for you," Christopher said, reaching into the drawer of the bedside table. He pulled out the small velvet box they'd found in the safety deposit box, the one containing his grandmother's emerald ring. "Christopher," Amara breathed, sitting up as he opened the box. "5 years ago we made a contract," he said, his eyes holding hers. "Today, I want to make a vow, a real one, from my heart to yours." He took the emerald ring from the box. "Amara Ellison Vale, will you marry me? Not for obligation, not for appearances, but for love." Tears filled Amara's eyes. "We're already married," she reminded him with a watery laugh. "On paper, yes, but I want more than that." Christopher's voice was earnest. "I want to stand before our families, before God, and promise to love you for the rest of my life, the way I should have 5 years ago." Amara's heart felt too full for words. She simply nodded, extending her hand so he could slip the ring onto her finger beside her wedding band. "Is that a yes?" he asked, his own eyes suspiciously bright. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times yes. Their kiss was tender, full of promise and possibility. When they finally broke apart, Christopher rested his forehead against hers. "No more silence between us," he murmured. "No more distance. No more pretending," Amara agreed. "Just truth, just love." The renewal ceremony was held in the garden of the Vale mansion 3 months later. Unlike their first wedding, a lavish, impersonal affair designed to generate press, this one was intimate, with only family and close friends in attendance. Josephine, now in remission thanks to the Mayo Clinic treatment, sat in the front row, beaming with pride. Beside her were Marcus and Zoe, both visibly moved by the transformation in their sister's marriage. Notably absent was Eleanor Vale. She had received an invitation, an olive branch extended by Amara despite Christopher's reservations, but had declined to attend. As Amara walked down the aisle in a simple ivory dress, her eyes locked with Christopher's. The look on his face, pure love, unguarded and unashamed, brought tears to her eyes. This time, when they exchanged vows, the words came from their hearts, not from a carefully crafted script designed for public consumption. "5 years ago, I made you a promise based on obligation," Christopher said, his voice carrying clearly in the garden. "Today, I make you a promise based on love. I promise to cherish you, to listen to you, to be your partner in all things. I promise no more silence, no more distance, just truth, just love for all the days of our lives." Amara's voice trembled slightly as she responded. "5 years ago, I married you for my family. Today, I marry you for us. I promise to trust you, to support you, to love you completely. No more fear, no more walls, just openness, just honesty, just love, now and always." When they were pronounced husband and wife again, Christopher pulled Amara into a kiss that felt like a beginning, the real beginning of their marriage, 5 years in the making. The celebration afterward was joyful, filled with laughter and music. Amara played the piano Christopher had given her, her heart too full for words as she watched him dance with her mother, as she saw her siblings truly happy for her for the first time in years. As the evening wound down, Christopher found her sitting alone on their favorite garden bench, looking up at the stars. "Penny for your thoughts, Mrs. Vale," he said, sitting beside her and taking her hand. "I was just thinking about how far we've come," Amara replied. 5 years of silence, and now this?" Christopher lifted her hand to his lips. "Do you regret any of it, the years we lost?" Amara considered the question. "No," she finally said. "Those years shaped us, taught us what truly matters. They make what we have now even more precious." "How did I get so lucky?" Christopher murmured, pulling her close. "It wasn't luck," Amara said softly. "It was choice. We chose this, chose each other, despite everything." As they sat together under the stars, Amara thought of her father, of the sacrifice he'd made to save Christopher's life, how that one moment had set in motion a chain of events that led here, to this garden, to this man, to this love. Some might call it fate, others, divine intervention. But Amara preferred to think of it as a journey, a long, sometimes painful journey through 5 years of silence to find the voice of their hearts. And now that they'd found it, neither of them would ever be silent again. The end.